Aloha, my name is Christina. Welcome to day 26 of my 31-day Pilates challenge. We're making our way through my 2022 March Matness videos where I'm breaking down the classical Pilates mat repertoire. I hope you're ready for some of these crazy moves because we're making our way through the last section, which will be the super advanced exercises. I included a ton of modifications, so please take them if you need them. So come on down to your mat and let's get started. We finished part 2 with swimming. You're laying on your tummy, you're kind of moving the arms up and down. That was a way to kind of warm up the whole backside of your body. I like to transition from that into leg pull front and leg pull back. So let's talk about leg pull front first before we talk about the transition. So leg pull front is going to end up being a full plank. Depending on your skill level, you can do a plank on your forearms. Ideally, it's a plank on your hands, but see how your body is feeling today. So our forearm plank will look like this, and you're in a Pilates V. Your heels are together, your toes are apart. We're just going to break it down. You're going to shift the heels back and forth. So I think high-heeled shoes, flat shoes, high-heeled shoes, flat shoes, and then we relax. Okay, so the same thing up on our hands. You're in your full plank, and you're going to shift back and forth. So always just being mindful of your wrists as you do this. And then we relax. So now we're going to add a leg lift. So we just did heels back and forth. Let's do a really simple leg lift. So one leg lifts up at a time. I'm thinking about squeezing the glutes, using the hamstrings to help lift the leg. Last one. And then you relax down. And then we're going to go into a full exercise. So we're shifting back and forth and we're doing a leg lift. So it's going to look like this. So we're going to shift the heels forward. I'm still in the V. My right leg comes up. Not very high, just kind of like parallel to the floor. I'm going to shift back, flat shoe, high-heeled shoe, and I bring the foot down. Left leg up, shift back, shift forward, left leg down, right leg up. So I'm using a little calf raise, a little high-heeled shoe, flat shoe moment as I bring the leg up. Good. And then relax it back down. So if I'm talking about the transition from swimming into this, you basically do like the bottom half of a push-up, which is hard. So I just finished my swimming. I'm extending the arms forward. I'm lifting the chest. I finished maybe the last couple of swims. And then I relax down. So I'm going to place my hands underneath my shoulders. I'm going to find my Pilates V already. I'm going to suck my tummy in, squeeze my glutes, and I'm going to push up. Maybe not my best push up. And then we go straight into our leg pull front. I think because your front faces the floor. And then we relax. Okay. Take a moment, shake out your wrists. This is where it gets really tough. We get into this little like wristy moment. All of these exercises, there is a transition in between all of them. So I'll talk about the exercise and the modifications, and then I'll talk about the transition. We just did leg pull front, where your front is facing the floor. Then we go into leg pull back. So options for this one. So our fingertips are pointing forward and we're lifting the hips up to the ceiling. That is a really difficult position to hold if you have really, really tight shoulders. So your option is you can actually sit on your couch, have the hands on the edge of the couch, and then you can walk your feet forward. So it's almost like you're going into like a little tricep dip. Options, if your wrists are bothering you, you can come down to your knuckles onto the floor and your chest is up. If you want to just practice on your forearms, and then maybe just do a little hip lift, that's always an option. So the actual exercise is my hands are down, my fingertips are forward, and I'm lifting the hips up, and I'm going to lift one leg up at a time. The dancer in me is going to want to really kick my leg up to the ceiling, which might look really nice, but I'm having to really shift my hips and able to do that. So I am just nice and simple lifting up. So options, you can come down to your forearms. You can actually just stay here, leave your butt down, and then find your abs. Always different options to do the actual exercise. You want to think about using your abs to lift the leg. You're using your glutes to help stabilize. Awesome. Okay, so that is our leg pull back. Talking about the transition. So we're in our plank position. You're going to try to transition without dropping your butt to the floor. Okay. Let's give it a go. So you just finished maybe your last leg pull front, which is the leg comes up, you go back forward and the leg comes down. So I actually bring my left hand kind of towards the right hand. I'm going to swivel my hips.
I'm gonna switch my hands. I'm gonna switch to my fingertips point forward. My hips are up, my chest is open, and I'm gonna bring one leg up at a time. So again, your butt never touches the floor. And then you relax. Good. Take a little moment, shake out your wrist. Okay, again, another kind of wristy moment. So let me demonstrate this side. Okay, so earlier in part 2, we worked on our side lying kind of leg kick series. We did a little circle, we did leg up and down, we did front and back, but you were laying all the way down. To me, this is in a similar family, but much harder because you're kneeling. So I'm going to try to demonstrate one side, and then I'll talk about the transition. So you can start kneeling. I'm going to reach the arms out. I'm actually going to reach the left leg out, and I'm going to cartwheel down. So if this position does not feel good for you, maybe practice this series laying all the way down. Okay, so my hand is flat, my top hand is behind the head, and my chest is open. I'm using my bottom glute to stabilize, using my abs to stabilize, and I'm using this top like left butt cheek to lift the leg up and down. We'll start really slow. 4, 3, chest is open. 2, and 1. Let's start to kick the leg forward and back. 5, much, much harder. 4, you're using your abs and glute, bottom glute, to keep everything still. 2, earlier in part 2, we did scissors and bicycle. So we're going to try the bicycle here. The leg goes back. I think about trying to bring my foot to my butt, knee forward, extend. Swoop it back, foot to your butt, knee forward, extend. Swoop it back. 3, foot to your butt, knee forward, extend. 2 more. 2, bend, knee forward. Reach 1 more. 1, bend, knee forward. And then we reverse. So bend the knee, try to extend your knee back, stretch your hip, straighten the leg, swoop it forward. 2, knee, extend, try not to hit my wall. 3, I'm losing my AirPod. 4, there goes the wall. 1 more. 5, good. And then usually transition to the other side. I'd bring the knee down, I'd push my self up, and I'd go straight to the other side. Okay, but I'm gonna give the wrist a little bit of a break. I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about this transition. So we did a bunch of transitions recently. We went from swimming to our full plank, which is our leg pull front. We went from that to flip over, which is our leg pull back. And then we try to transition from that into our side kick series. So we just finished this guy, hips up, chest is open. We did one leg up and the other leg up. It's like a very fancy transition that I just learned from Jay Grimes. You're gonna sneak your left leg in. So it's like the outside of my shin is on the floor. My butt never touches the ground. I'm gonna rotate, swivel my left fingertips so they point out. My left knee is underneath my left hip. Bring the right hand behind the head. Ooh, this side's much tighter. I'm gonna keep the chest open, and here we go. Lift the leg up and down for 5, 4, this is harder to balance. 3, 2, lift and hold, leg goes forward and back. 5, 4, using your bottom glute, using your abs to keep everything still. 2, 1, and then we go into a bicycle. 5, I'm attempting to keep the foot the height of the hip. 3, your hip's gonna get sore and it's gonna start to droop down. Try to keep it high. Good, and then we reverse. 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And then this is maybe when we transition to the other side. Okay, take a little moment, shake out the wrists. You can even do like palms up and stretch the wrists. Transitions for days. Okay, so I'm going to talk about side bend, and then we'll talk about the transition. I'm going to keep transitioning so I go from the same side. So let me demonstrate this side. Okay, so side bend is like a side plank. Options for beginners, or if your wrist is starting to bother you, this is always going to be an option. My forearm is down on the floor. I like to think that the top leg is forward, the bottom leg is going to be back. And you're going to start with a plank. So if this is all you got today, maybe your top head is down and your hips are up, this is great. You want to engage your bottom lat and bottom oblique so you're not dumping into the shoulder. So maybe we'll just do a hold. If you can, the top hand reaches up to the ceiling. If that feels good, you're going to reach the arm overhead and you're going to slightly lift the hips. I like to drop the hips and swing the arm almost all the way down, maybe even tap your leg, and then back up. So everything comes down, everything lifts up. 2 more, 2, and lift. 1 more, 1, and lift, and then we relax it back down. So that is definitely an option. If you can, though, we're going to come up to your full side plank. So my hand is on the floor, and I'm going to prop myself up. I like to do fingertips out versus fingertips forward. It feels a little bit better for my shoulder. My shoulder is over the wrist. My top hand is overhead. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. Everything swings down. Everything lifts up. So it's a much bigger range of motion. 2. Let's do just 1 more. 1. And then relax. Okay. So if we're talking about transitions, if we're transitioning from swimming, leg pull front, our plank, leg pull back, our kind of reverse plank, into our side kick, and then we want to maybe try to transition into our side bend, and then I'll show you how to transition to the other side. So we just did this guy, right? We did here. We did 1 leg up at a time. We tucked the knee under, shin to the floor. I'm going to rotate so I face towards the camera. And then we went through our side kick series. So if you want to be fancy about it, you're going to plant the top foot down. My bottom hand is down, and I'm going to sneak the bottom leg out. Top hand up to the ceiling as you reach it over, and we drop it down. 4, 3, and 2, and 1. So I'm going to maybe transition to the other side. I'm going to tuck the bottom knee in. I'm going to tuck the top leg in, and I transition to the other side. So I go through my side kick series here. I go through my side bend series here. And then maybe I kind of drop my hips down, tuck the shins under, grab the shin, and then maybe do a stretch. And then maybe I do the other side. So it's kind of fun to see how everything's like sort of connected and there's like a more of a flow to it. Okay, so that takes us to boomerang, seal, and crab. These are on the sillier side, but also really fun. So the very beginning in part 1, I'm going to tie my hair off to the side for this one. I think it's a little crazy. We did rolling like a ball, and we did open leg rocker. Like off to the side. So 2 types of rolling things. Whenever we get to the rolling exercises, think about using your abs. Obviously, think about keeping your spine round, because if your spine ends up flattening, you end up kind of like plopping down on the floor. So you always want to think more of that rounded C shape, abs are pulled in. So earlier in part 1, we did rolling like a ball, where your feet were tucked in, you're rolling back, exhale, roll up. And then we did open leg rocker. So your legs are straight. Maybe if you're a beginner, your knees were bent, and we're going to roll back. And then we hold. Good. So we're going to go into boomerang. So I'm going to talk about each individual exercise, and then we'll kind of talk about a transition that I actually just sort of learned recently. So boomerang, I've learned it a couple different ways. I took a workshop recently with Jay Grimes, and I like his version, and I also like the fact that it all flows together. So we're going to work on that version today. So to break it down, my right ankle is crossed over my left leg, and I'm pressing my hands into the floor. Instead of throwing my legs back, I'm trying to use my abs to lift the legs. I roll back. I hold my sort of like rollover position. I'm going to switch the legs. I'm going to roll up. Some people like to hold here into a teaser. We're going to skip that. You're going to do a little double pump with the arms up to the ceiling. Pump, pump. And you're going to round forward. And you sit up tall. Okay, so let's try that. So now my left leg is on top. I use my abs to lift the legs. I roll over, switch the leg. I roll up, do the double pump, pump, pump. And I round forward and sit up tall. Okay, so 1 more each side. My right leg is on top. I use my abs to start the rollover. I switch the legs. I roll up, double pump, pump, pump. I round forward and I stand up tall, or sit up tall. Good. 1 more. Switch. Pump, pump. And then round forward and sit up tall. Good. So eventually we'll talk more about a flow. So that was boomerang, seal, This is always like the really hilarious one. Another rolling exercise, there's a pause at the top and there's a pause at the bottom, which is really, really tough. So I'm going to actually feed my arms through the legs, reaching on the outside. I'm going to grab my ankle so the bottoms of my feet are together. Here. Okay, so I'm actively pushing my arms out into my legs. I'm pushing my legs into my arms. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say tension. I want to say there's a lot of energy in my body to kind of keep this position. This one's a work in progress for me. So I'm going to try to pause here. 3 claps. 3, 2, 1, like a seal. Roll back. Try to pause. 3, 2, 1. Roll up. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Roll back. Pause. 3, 2. Roll up. 3, 2, 1. Roll back. 3, 2. Whoops. Roll up. 3, 2, 1. One more. Roll back. 3, 2, 1. And then come on up. So it's really hard. You don't want to roll onto your neck. That's what I did like with the first one. There's a pause at the bottom. You're using your abs and you're trying to keep your hips up as you clap your feet together. That one's always really hard for me. Okay, crab. Again, a really funky exercise, but really, really fun. I used to do this like very pretty leg switch thing. And in the workshop I learned recently, the reason why it's called crab is because your legs are these claws and you want to have them go sharp out and in to help cross the legs. You're like, what is she talking about? She sounds crazy. All right, so you're going to cross the ankles. If you cross the shins, it is terrible. It makes it really, really hard to roll over your legs. So you really want to cross like your ankles. And my knees are really wide. I'm grabbing on the outside of my legs and I'm trying to grab the top of my feet. Okay, so right now my left ankle is crossed over the right. Make sure there's nothing behind me. I'm going to roll forward. I'm using my abs to gently tap the top of my head to the mat. So if any part of this feels terrible, maybe just keep it really small. Maybe just practice rolling over the ankle and don't kind of like force yourself to drop your head down. Also with these, you want a lot of padding on the floor. So if you're working in a hardwood floor, maybe double up your mat, maybe grab a blanket, maybe grab a couple of extra towels because you don't want to injure your neck or your back. Okay, so we're going to roll forward over the ankles, top of the head to the mat. I'm going to roll back. I'm going to switch my legs and I'm going to grab the ankles or the tops of the feet. So right now my right ankle is on top. I roll over, tap the top of the head down. I roll back, and I roll forward, top of the head to the mat. I roll back, switch the legs. Oop, I couldn't grab it. Roll forward. Maybe try one more. Roll back, switch, roll up, and forward. Whew. That one is hard, especially with that one, not to start to use momentum. With these rolling exercises, you want to keep this like rounded shape, keeping your legs fairly close from your abs, not necessarily from momentum or not necessarily from like your arms or your legs. Okay, so let's talk about the transition. During those 3, there's a flow to it, and we hopefully never stop. So let's do 2 of each and see whatever you can do all right in a row. I'm going to scoot forward. My right ankle is on top. We start with boomerang. Your hands are pressing into the mat. Shove my AirPod in. You're going to use your abs to roll back, switch the legs, roll up, double pump, and then reach forward. Roll back, switch the legs, roll up. Actually, we're going to do 3 so we can talk about the transition. So we go back, and as we come up, we reach forward, grab the outsides of the feet, clap, 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 roll up, pause. Good. One more. So as you roll up on the next one, you start to cross the ankles. Ankle crosses, top of the head to the mat, roll it back, cross the ankles, top of the head to the mat, roll it up. Last one, cross the ankles, top of the head to the mat, and then relax back down. Very, very nice. Continue to work on that one a lot. That one took me a while to understand each individual exercise
and then figuring out how to put them all together. Once you get the flow of it, it feels really, really fun. Okay, Joseph Pilates, you are a jokester. This exercise is one of my least favorite because it's really hard to do. Earlier in part one, we talked about swan dive. Remember this guy? So we planted our hands to the floor. I'm lifting my chest up. We ended up doing a little rock forward and then rock up. We did a little bit of a prep, and we did about like 3 or 4 rocks. So I'm thinking of using the backs of the legs and my all my back muscles to help lift the chest versus throwing my arms forward, or a lot of people, especially in this exercise, throw their head forward. Okay, let's do rocking. It's a really tough exercise. If you have really tight shoulders, maybe you have a belt nearby or a yoga strap nearby, or maybe 2. Go ahead and grab it. Because this is our rocking position. You're laying on your tummy, your hands are grabbing the tops of your feet. I think less about shooting my legs up to the ceiling, and I think about trying to straighten my legs. So I'm naturally pulling my hands back, and I'm lifting the chest, and then I'm gonna roll back down. So if you can't necessarily reach the tops of your feet, maybe you can loop something around the ankles and grab that. So let me just show you. I actually have a belt. Magically. So you don't necessarily have the shoulder flexibility to do it. You're kind of holding here. You always have that option, depending on how your body is feeling. Put that guy off to the side. Okay, let's do our rocking. So I'm grabbing the tops of my feet. I'm gonna press my legs back. I'm lifting the chest without throwing my head back. I'm gonna think legs, chest, legs, chest. So I'm reaching my glutes up to the ceiling, or my thighs up to the ceiling. Chest back. Inhale, exhale. 3, 2, 1, and then I relax it back down. That one always is so incredibly hard for me, especially if you have tight shoulders and the position's just really hard to find. But always, it's more for your glutes and your hamstrings and just to really open the heart and the chest, especially after all of that rounded rolling series. We really want to open things up. Okay, my second least favorite exercise, because it's hard. These are all exercises that I have gotten better doing over the years, but they are just naturally hard exercises. I've learned this 2 different ways. I think about reaching out through the toes, or reaching out through the legs for our balance control, or control balance. So in some of the classical series, we do what's called a series of 5. So there's a moment where we do this kind of like double leg pull, and your legs are straight, and you're thinking about reaching out through the toes. The same thing happened in part 2 when we did my hair out of the way, our scissors. We want to think of that 2-way stretch of the legs back and forth. So the same thing happens here with our balance control. My necklace out of the way. We want to think of that 2-way stretch of the legs. One leg's going to reach up to the ceiling, and one leg is going to reach overhead. This one's always so incredibly hard for me to find. I haven't quite figured out why, but I'm going to give it a go today. So let's talk about maybe a bit of a prep. I'm going to rock back, and maybe just keep your arms here, and you're going to start to reach one leg up to the ceiling. So you're kind of scissoring the legs up and down. Maybe squeeze the top glute, and then go ahead and relax. Okay, so what makes the exercise so difficult is you can't use your arms. The arms are reaching overhead, hands are kind of on the floor, and you're grabbing the bottom leg. So you're simultaneously grabbing one leg as you reach the opposite leg up to the ceiling. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to use my abs, rock back. One leg reaches up. Maybe my toes are on the mat. And I'm going to switch. I'm lengthening through the neck. I'm reaching the leg up to the ceiling. Ideally, my leg is 12 o'clock. Is it? Probably not. That's okay. One more each side. Ooh. And then relax it back down. Taking a moment there. All right, so that one is tough. Also, it's like the second to the last exercise, so
everything is a big build-up. Parts 1, 2, 3, all 30-ish exercises lead you to a push-up, the perfect push-up. So maybe let's find a funky transition. So we just did, woo, or did we? Hold on. A couple of our balance controls. Like we did in crab, as we roll forward, can you cross the ankles, plant your feet on the floor, stand all the way up, and turn around. Very fancy. You're in a Pilates V, your heels are together, toes apart. I'm kind of close to my wall, so I'm going to gently open the arms out and up to the ceiling. I'll think about doing a roll-up, scooping the abs in, except I'm rolling my hands down to the floor. I'm going to walk my hands forward into a plank. I'm going to squeeze the heels together. So everything that we've worked, your lats are working, your abs are working, my obliques, my glutes, my hamstrings. I'm lengthening through the spine. The whole back of the body is working. And I'm going to do 4 push-ups. Inhale, bend. Exhale, press. I like doing tricep push-ups because it's harder. 2, 1 more. And then I'm going to walk my hands back. Hands onto the floor, round up through the spine, arms up to the ceiling. And I'm going to circle the arms all the way out and back down. Ooh, you made it. I made it. Whew, that last third, those are so hard. Thank you so much for joining me for part 3 of our March Madness series. The next video coming up is part 4, which is going to be the more beginner intermediate workout. And once we get to part 5, I'm not really going to talk a whole lot because I want you to learn all the exercises. And we're going to do all of them right in a row and all of the advanced transitions right in a row. So do parts 1, 2, 3, and coming up part 4 as many times as you need to really get these exercises done. Once again, my name is Christina. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Aloha.